1. It's been a bit over a week since this happened. Things got busy out of nowhere, as I'm sure lots of you are experiencing right now. So here it is, a little story about a Karen who thinks she is royalty. Enjoy. Our story begins, like I mentioned, about a week and a half ago. I am working the PM shift as usual, things are going great. A cute girl complimented my name and we hit it off. It was a good day. Shortly after meeting that lovely person, this older couple comes in. I put them in their 50s. I greet them and get their check-in moving. While I'm doing this, the lady, later to be revealed as the aforementioned Karen, asks me about our pool and hot tub. We had just opened them back up after being closed for months because of COVID, though we are told by management to limit the number of people in there at one time. I tell them this info and receive a flabbergasted, "Really?" I assure her that I'm not in fact joking, politely of course. She then asks about breakfast. All through the virus deal, we've been doing to-go breakfast bags for everybody, as we were instructed not to order or serve the hot breakfast until further notice. Once more, I got an incredulous look when I relay this info. She tells me that the last 3 hotels they stayed at were doing the hot breakfast again. I tell her that's up to those other hotels, but we are not doing it for a bit longer. Already, you can get a sense of where this is going. I hand their keys over, making note that the Karen is already huffing and puffing down the hall. About 15 minutes later, I hear suitcases coming back towards the desk. Sure enough, I see the Karen round the corner. I ask her how things are going, and she stops dead, looking at me as though she'd like to slap me, and states that there is no microwave in her room. I inform her that due to our smaller size, the owner opted not to crowd the surfaces with microwaves in the rooms, so nobody has a microwave by default. We do have a small stock of them if a guest requests one, but on this particular night we had given them all out. There is, however, a microwave in the lobby that guests can use anytime they need. She tells me that's no good, that she needs a microwave. I say I'm sorry, but I don't have any more to give out. So she turns to her husband and asks what he wants to do. He suggests that they eat down in the lobby so they can eat their microwave dinners without making several trips to and from the room. Without missing a beat, she says, "We aren't allowed to eat down here in the lobby." I butt in and tell her that they are very much welcome to eat in the lobby. She huffs off to a table, her husband in tow, all of their bags in hand. They sit and start their dinners, and very shortly afterward I see them move tables. She comes up and asks for a rag and a cleaner so she can wipe off the table they had originally picked out, claiming they had to move because the first table was just too high up to eat at. It's a whopping 1/4 inch taller than the table they moved to. I offer to wipe it off for her, but she says no, so I hand her a rag and a cleaner, only to have her look at the rag in disbelief, then back to me. This rag is totally clean, fresh out of the laundry, and she asks me if I really mean her to wipe the table off with that particular rag. I tell her yes. She sighs and goes off to clean up. She brings both back when she's done, and I tell her thank you, which she ignores. They both finish their dinners, grab their things, and head back to the room. About half an hour passes, and once again I hear their bags rolling towards the front. When she's in view, I can see she's just livid, so I greet her and ask what's the matter. She states that there is a dog in one of the rooms near theirs. Brief aside, we were sold out this evening, and a family who had already been there a couple days had a family member join them who happened to bring their very small dog. These guests let me know. I informed them they could stay in their current rooms because I had nowhere else to put them. Back to the Karen. I tell her this reasoning, and she looks as though I just spat in her face. She tells me I should charge them a fee. I tell her we do not charge for pets. She tells me I need to kick them out. Now it's my turn to give her a scathing look. I tell her that I will not kick them out, and that is a ridiculous request. She goes off on a tangent about how they are top tier in our rewards program, asking me if I'm aware how many hotels that means they've stayed at, how much money they've given our brand, and how they've never received treatment this horrible. Now her husband pipes up for a second, seemingly trying to match his wife's level of douchebaggery. He raises his voice ever so slightly, saying he heard the dog yip, and that I need to move them rooms so he can get some sleep. I tell them I have one room on manager hold, so I can just swap them to that one, which is one floor below their current room. He says okay, and I make the change. While I'm working, the Karen asks if there's a manager around. I tell her no, and that I'm the only one here. She finds my supervisor and GM's cards on the counter and asks when they would be in again. This being a Saturday, I tell her that one of them would be in on Monday. She pockets the card, whispers something to her husband in a language I don't know, but I still say, "Excuse me, ma'am, I didn't catch that." She tells me never mind, it's nothing. I hand the new keys to her husband, who is back to his docile self, and he thanks me. He heads off toward the elevator, and she goes to follow. A couple steps away, she stops and turns to me. She tells me, "Somebody is really screwed up here." I don't think that's true, all with my customer service smile on my face. She comes back with, "Yeah, well, I'm taking you to court for this." Have fun with that, ma'am. She trudges off, and I can hear her spewing agitated somethings at her husband in the foreign language she has spoken out before. They disappear, and I don't see them for the rest of the night. At this point, though, I had made up my mind that if I saw them again, I was kicking them out. Thankfully for me, it ended there. I leave a warning note for the morning person just in case. The next day, I come in for my shift to find that my supervisor had actually come in to work the morning. As I settle in, I ask if she had any difficult guests at checkout. The look she gave me told me she had interacted with the same Karen. She proceeded to tell me about how she complained about the to-go bags, which my supervisor apologized for. The Karen then asked for coffee, which we've been having to serve, as the whole reason behind the to-go bags is not having people serve themselves, which annoyed the Karen even further. She went to get the Karen her coffee. When she came back, the Karen complained she put too much coffee in the cup. My supervisor offered to empty some of it in the sink in the back, but the Karen insisted on pouring some of it out in the trash can. They came up to check out, and just bit into my supervisor about how awful they were treated, how terrible the stay was, etc. Apparently, a couple of other guests had gotten annoyed with smaller things before all this, but after the whole lobby experienced the show that was the Giga Karen, they all came to the desk and apologized. Of course, we haven't heard anything from them. Something tells me she's all talk, and she probably is able to bully employees at other hotels into giving her whatever she wants. I feel slightly bad for her husband, having to walk around with that for what I would guess is every day. I only feel slightly bad, because he was obviously just putting up with it. I hope he escapes one day. Two. Something wholesome for a change. Background. Last summer I worked at a resort in an area that was well known for its hospitality and local accent and dialect. Resort employees were mostly locals, and we would heavily embellish our accents to please the tourists. It's one of the things tourists look forward to when they come to this region. We don't mind, as it's a lot of fun. Because my grandparents are originally from this area, I am fluent in the local dialect, English-based, and my accent really kicks in when I'm around others of the same background or when I get hyper. Story time. Check-in has been going unusually smooth for the middle of a high-season rush. Most of the check-ins came early. No one has any notes or requests in our system, and we have one international arrival left. The international arrivals, German couple, walk into our lobby, and then they are the cutest couple I have ever seen. They were wearing matching hiking clothes, carrying matching rucksacks and walking sticks, and were holding hands. The husband comes up to me to check in and looks quite shy. His wife stands to the side. So I put on my biggest smile and keep my accent quite toned down, in case there is a language barrier. His English is perfect, no problems there, so I switch back to my local accent. As we get into the motions of check-in, he becomes less reserved and more open with me. Great, let's keep the smooth check-ins going. After completing the check-in process, I start to explain the benefits of the resort and the local attractions. Well, folks, I like to give out travel advice, and I love to ramble about what the area has to offer, which means I'm getting hyper, speaking faster, and my accent has gone completely native. As I'm talking, the man's face becomes noticeably confused. maybe a bit frightened as he puts up his hand for me to stop talking. Oops, oh hell, his wife looks pissed now. Alright, why? Did I say something wrong? Turns out I didn't. Well, no really. The husband explains to me that he and his wife are actually deaf. He's verbal while she is not, though they can both lip read English and sign ASL. Can I just say how amazing it is that they can both lip read in various languages and know multiple sign languages? Respect. Go polyglots. I tone down the accent so they can both read my lips easier, and ask them if they would prefer an accessible room. I explain that yes, it is a wheelchair-accessible room, but it is also designed for guests with other impairments, flashing lights for the doorbell, and alarms amongst other accessible tech. They looked shocked as they didn't realize our accessible rooms were equipped with various amenities they booked via travel agent. It was actually a recent addition as part of the resort's renovation during the previous winter. They were worried about the room not having a king bed or being on a higher floor, like they originally booked. Luckily for them, we did have that option available in an accessible room. They were visibly over the moon and bouncing with excitement. Don't think I ever smiled that genuinely that hard at a guest before. Before they set off for the room. As we will be here for a week, if it is not too much trouble, could you please make the staff aware that we can read lips? The local accent can be hard to follow at times. He gives an embarrassed look. That's no problem, sir. I can see if one of my colleagues on the property can sign. If so, would you like me to let you know? If it's not too much trouble, it would be appreciated. We'll be going to dinner soon if you need to find us. As soon as they leave, I ask my colleague to man the desk as it's not busy. I grab a radio, haul ass to the staff room, and force the shuttle driver to aid my hunt. The resort is big, to say the least, and we split up to go hunt down a signer. I put out the call on the radio, but it's a negative there, and after 15 minutes, we still cannot find a soul who can sign. Even management doesn't know and tells me to get back to the front desk and we'll have to play it by ear. I happen to stop by the lounge to inform the German couple about my utter failure. I can see them as I turn the corner into the lounge, and something is off. Oh, good God, goes through my head, as I see the waitress with the couple. I didn't tell the F&B staff about the couple, and the wife was crying. I stop in my tracks, expecting the worst, but the husband is smiling and the waitress is signing with the couple. Bless my lucky stars, we actually had someone on staff who was not just able to sign, but she was completely fluent in ASL. I talked to the waitress and the couple after their meal. The reason the wife was crying was because she usually cannot freely communicate with others. As the wife was non-verbal and not many people can sign, she finds it hard to communicate with most people. That lovely couple was with us for 7 days and always had a smile on their faces. The husband loved to tell me about what they saw or experienced during their day. That waitress served them every night, even going as far as to help them with travel information, plan activities, and give advice on how to enjoy themselves while visiting the local area. That waitress worked 12 days straight so she could be there to sign with the couple. Yes, this is 100% true, she is an angel, and was one of my favorite colleagues I have ever worked with. There were some hiccups with miscommunication and lip reading while they stayed at the resort, but it was all quite minor. Interacting with the German couple inspired me to start learning ASL. By the end of their stay, I could spell in ASL, and they taught me some basic signs. They also left one of the most highly rated reviews I have ever received from a guest. I'm still learning ASL today, easily one of the best weeks I have ever worked in hospitality. 3. I am 29, female. 6 years ago, I got a job working at the front desk of a hotel. Brand name unimportant. The location of this hotel was an exit off a very busy interstate. The owner was the biggest scumbag. All he cared about was money, his image, and his community, and cared nothing for the employees. We lovingly referred to him as Scrooge McDuck. He was short and extremely greedy. Telling you that you were wrong and that he was right was his favorite pastime. Entitled to the crown of the kingdom jerk. The majority of the customers were worse, of course. I did not find all this out until after I was working for him. Now onto the story of the blackout. I was working at this hotel for less than a month when our state was hit by a hurricane. This left our entire city in a blackout. Power, phones, the internet, all down. Which means that this hotel is dead in the water. We cannot see online bookings, take calls, or service the guests we had staying with the limited amenities we offered. Contrary to popular opinion, hotels do not have generators. So I arrive at my 3 p.m. to 11 p.m. shift, after riding out a terrifying hurricane the night before, to find that the hotel, just like the rest of the city, is dark. The day staff leaves and the owner informs me of how tonight is going to run. Run? What do you mean? There is no power, and all but 2 rooms have left. I was instructed to sit outside in front of the hotel and take the names of people who made reservations. That way we can cancel them when power returns. I calmly asked him why not lock the hotel down and send the guests home. His response: "I don't want to lose money, and someone here will keep people from stealing my stuff." Then he gets in his car and leaves me alone on the property, by myself. You might be thinking that sounds like an easy night of work, no biggie. That is where you're wrong. Dealing with humans that are entitled on the best of days is stressful. Dealing with entitled people when their way of life is disrupted, as we have all witnessed in the past months, can be downright dangerous. I'm sitting outside on the porch and smoking area. Car after car keeps rolling up. I'm taking their name and turning them away, shooing the vultures away from the corpse of this building. One lady screamed in my face that she wanted to speak to my manager. One man tried to punch me in the face when I explained to him he needed to contact the third-party site that he booked with. Why? Because there's no fluffing power in the hotel. I would like to help you, Boomer, but I literally cannot. After 4 hours of the summer heat, I remove my uniform shirt, so I'm in jeans and a tank top. I refuse to stay in the polyester nightmare that I was issued. For the viewers keeping track at home, I am a female by myself in the summer heat, have no bottled water, no working hotel phones, off the interstate in a blackout. And what's this mysterious ding? Ah, my cell phone is dying. This is my only way to call for help if something goes sideways. Right, cool. Thanks. I hate it. Then Scrooge McDuck shows back up. What's this? Does his house have power? That's nice. Can you bring me some water? There are water fountains in the hotel. That's cool. I'll leave my post and let anyone and their mother walk into the hotel. Then this waste of space has the nerve to look me in the eyes and tell me that I should put your uniform top back, 'cause you're still working. I did not dignify that comment with a response, but the look of WTF did you just say to me was enough for him to scurry into his van and go enjoy his air conditioning. No, I did not put the polyester parachute back on. It was a 6XL who refused to order a smaller one. How dare I not want to hide my fat shame? My amazing boyfriend battled through the traffic to come check on me after sundown, because I was at the peak of anxiety. He finally told me that I needed to get into my car, turn my high beams on, and face the entrance. All others were locked. That's where I remained for the rest of my shift. My tolerance meter for BS boss shenanigans lowered after working there for the next 6 months. I have plenty of stories that I'm willing to share. I no longer have fear of backlash since the hotel is no longer standing. If you made it this far, trust me, it gets worse. 4. So my first job in the hotel industry was as a night auditor, in a resort area where the summers, like most places, can get pretty hectic. It was approximately 2 to 3 years ago when this took place. It was a very hectic night right from the start of my shift. I walk in to see the second shift arguing with a guest about the amount of pillows in the room. Normally I would let things slide and let them handle the situation. However, my coworker looked ragged from what I can assume was a hell of a day. To make a long story short, before getting into the meat and potatoes of the actual story, the woman had 2 rooms and wanted multiple pillows for each room. The problem is that we already provided additional pillows for the room, but she just wasn't having it. The argument ended with her telling me that I need to be a good concierge and get her fucking pillows. I try not to curse at guests unless it's absolutely necessary. This was one of those times at which point I responded with telling her that she isn't getting any more pillows, and that she needs to be a good fucking guest and get the fuck back on the elevator before I evict her fucking rooms for harassing my coworkers. Needless to say, they got evicted later for multiple noise complaints. Blah blah blah. A few hours go by after the eviction, and the night is slowly getting ready to end with myself and my other auditor beginning the night audit. When I look up at the security camera and notice a man on the 2nd floor right outside of the elevator, sitting/laying on the bench. At which point I notice he appears to be scratching his nether region. Jokingly, I turn to my at the time 7-month pregnant coworker and chuckle, saying, "Look, that guy looks like he's masturbating." Innocent laughter fades to sudden realization and shock when I realize what I am looking at. I call her to our maintenance guy and tell him to head to the 2nd floor right now. You see, we didn't have a security officer or anything like that. The GM was too cheap to hire one during the summers. So maintenance and the front desk doubled as security. So as she called him and told him what was going on, I was on the phone with local police telling them that I needed someone here immediately. It was the longest 5 minutes of my life, watching the maintenance guy slowly shamble up the stairs. He's closing in on 70, give him a break. Through the emergency staircase where the man hears him and tucks in real fast. The 2 of them discussing something when the maintenance guy shambling off and up to the next floor and to the elevator. At which point, homeboy goes right back to it. I have no idea if this guy is a guest, a friend of a guest, or what have you. All I know is that there's a guy on the 2nd floor masturbating, and I have to watch the damn camera to make sure he doesn't go anywhere till the police arrive. At this point, the maintenance guy is on his way back down to the lobby in the elevator when the police finally arrive. I run from behind the front desk and the cops just follow me as the elevator that the maintenance guy is on opens up. No words are exchanged as he sees me and 2 cops and asks what floor, and I tell him 2nd. Ding go the elevator doors, and me, 2 cops, the maintenance guy, step off the elevator. At this point, homeboy jumps up from the bench, hands in the air, and what comes next was gross even to the cops. As soon as he and his hands go up, a marital aid falls off his dick and rolls across the floor. The cops detain the guy after having him conceal himself and place him under arrest. So after doing some research from the ID he provided to the cops, he was in fact a registered guest at the hotel. The worst part is that his room was exactly 2 doors down from the elevator on the 2nd floor. But if you can believe it, it gets worse. After the situation goes down, I receive a subpoena to appear in court against who is henceforth being lovingly referred to as Sir Beats-a-Lot. So I'm thinking, great. If this guy wants to fight the charges, I'm going to have to tell this whole story all over again in a crowded courtroom. Thankfully that didn't happen, and he pled guilty to the charges placed against him. However, consider this for a moment. If you were to be placed in my situation where at any time a guest could have walked out of their room and observed Sir Beats-a-Lot choking the one-eyed snake, what sentence would you be satisfied with seeing him receive? Time served, maybe community service, being placed on a sex offender registry. How about probation before judgment? Because that's exactly what he got, and oh, of course he had to pay court fees. See, in the time where I work, they would have you think that we are a safe, family-friendly environment where nothing ever seems to go wrong. In recent weeks, for example, we've had fights break out, stabbings, shootings, one individual lost his life due to a blow to the head by a pole, etc. So, with those examples listed, the courts and the town believe that it's okay to have someone like this walk away with no more than a slap on the wrist. 5. Get comfy, y'all, 'cause this is gonna be a long one about a strange set of guests who made a lasting impression. I work at a small, lower-tier name-brand hotel in a decent enough area, off a highway technically and close to a nice downtown and historic district. But not too close, so we get a mix of people who are coming off of long car rides and just need a place to sleep before hitting the road again, and people who are visiting for events in the downtown. So we had very few problems with the rowdy, drunk, abrasive people, save for the shiny high members. This meant we were pretty lenient about prepaid cards. We didn't accept cash, but if you had a card that would authorize for the full room, tax, and incidentals, we'd let you use it. We don't anymore, and we learned the hard way why you shouldn't. Our story begins on a usual evening. I am working the 3 to 11, and in comes a woman roughly in her late 20s, an older woman about her late 30s, and an older man roughly in his 50s. The older man is in a wheelchair, committed in an electric wheelchair. I would mention this except it is relevant to the story. So the younger woman comes up to make a reservation and pay for the room. She asks if we take cash. I say no, unfortunately we don't. She says she doesn't have a card. What can she do? I told her that there's a convenience store across the street. She can put money on a prepaid card and use that to check in. Don't ask about this dumb policy. I don't know why we had it, but we did. No cash but a prepaid card was fine, go figure. So off the 3 of them go. I was getting odd vibes from the older woman. She'd been muttering a bit, slurring when she talked. But I thought perhaps it was my personal feelings about her lack of teeth that were causing me to unfairly judge. They all come back and they present the card, so I ran it for room, tax, and incidentals. The younger woman asks what happens to the incidentals, and I told her they go right back onto your card when you check out if nothing is charged to the room. She asks a couple more times, reiterating that she'll get it back. Odd, but not totally unusual. People want to make sure they are getting the money back. They go to a room on the first floor, and I figure that's the end of it. At one point, the older woman comes up to the desk, all secretive, and asks for extra towels. She says the old man has had an accident while trying to transfer from the wheelchair to the toilet. I tell her absolutely, and I grab a fresh set for her. I think really nothing of it, and the evening passes without incident. I had what we will call a quick turnover shift after my 3 to 11, and worked the 7 to 3 the next morning. Lucky me, the guests in question were sitting in the car turnaround with their minimal luggage. They hadn't checked out in person, but we assumed they were out, so housekeeping went to clean the room. Nothing could have prepared housekeeping for the horrors of that room. There was shit everywhere. Literal human feces, every linen, every towel, every pillowcase. It was smeared on the walls, it was in the rug. Someone had tried to round up some of the smeared towels and sheets by grabbing the large plastic bag from the closet where we kept the spare blanket, and had tried stuffing them into it, thus resulting in a toxic bag filled with human, well, you get the idea. How was the toilet, you ask, with hope in your eyes? Alas, despite the defecation that filled the rest of the room, the toilet was also a complete catastrophe. It was disgusting, horrifying. So they hadn't officially been checked out yet. We went in and charged every last penny of their incidentals before checking them out, which was only $20. That did not even come close to covering the cost of this biochemical war zone. Unfortunately, as you front desk fiends already know, we couldn't get any more than that off the card. It was all the money that was on it. Amusingly enough, the young woman from before came up to the desk after sitting outside all this time and asked for her receipt. I printed it out and handed it to her. She asked why she had been charged an extra $20. She actually asked me that. I had to inform her it was to cover the cost of the linens that were now unusable, We told her technically they owed us quite a bit more than just $20 because of the massive damage to the room. She told me nonchalantly,
"But you can just wash them, and they'll be alright, right?"
Wrong. I told her we had to throw them all directly into the trash can. She then told me that it shouldn't be her money that we take. That it was the man with her. She told me,
"I don't even know him, and the woman with him, they're homeless, and they asked me to pay for a room for them."
I had to tell her that unless they offered to pay for the damages, we would not be able to give her any of her money back. She went outside and then grabbed her bike and rode off. As for the other two, they continued sitting in the car, turning around another half an hour before a car came to pick them up. They worked to pick up the older man and get him into the car. But then they left his electric wheelchair behind. We checked to find it was busted, battery dead maybe. They left it there all day, so we brought it into one of the empty meeting rooms for the evening, thinking they'd come back for it. It smells so bad, also covered in human excrement. So after 2 days we simply brought it outside and put it beside the dumpster. It rained all the next day. Finally a random someone with a large van came to pick it up, and when he found it was beside the dumpster, he complained to high heaven about us not taking care of it. He stopped when he got close enough to smell it. He then refused to put it in his van. He said he also didn't know the man very well, but the man had asked him to come pick up the wheelchair for him from us. He eventually did load it into his van and drove off, and that was the very last we heard of it. Our GM wasn't in the day it all went down, but boy oh boy was she pissed when she arrived and saw the state of that room. No email could have properly communicated that to her. From that point on, we were instructed to never accept any card that didn't have the guest's name directly on the card. No exception. A shitty lesson well learned. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Coahw, number 42. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. And a special shout out goes to the author of the first story, Reddit user HP958, aka Hayden the Conqueror. Thank you very much for letting us use your story, Hayden. Oh, yes, just wanted to make the announcement for those of you who were asking for zip-up hoodies in the merch store. I swear I can speak English. In the merch store, they have now been added. I have 2 designs. Other ones can be added at request. Okay. And with that, I'm going to head off for now, so until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.